All right, go ahead.
All right. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the December 16th, 2021 Burlington Traffic Commission meeting. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, this meeting is being held via Zoom platform. Please note this meeting is being recorded. If anyone is having technical or connection difficulties, please contact Conrad Almedo at 336-214-4515 for support. For tonight's public comments to address the commission this meeting, please indicate that you wish to do so by using the raise hand feature in Zoom, or if by phone, press *9 and our meeting host will notify me that you wish to speak. As a preliminary matter, I am Chair Scott Harenko. I'd like to confirm that all commission members and staff anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So all members, I see on myself, Scott Harenko, James Perry, Reed Sarton, Michael Howard, and I heard Nathan Page by phone. Is that a correct roll?
That's correct.
Okay. Very good. So staff participants, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Director of Planning and Transportation, Mike Nunn.
He's absent.
Okay. Transportation Engineering and Operations Manager, Brian Tennant.
Here.
David Turner, Burlington Police Department.
Absent.
Scott Elliott, Burlington Police Department.
Absent.
And Travis Handy, Burlington Fire Department.
Absent.
Okay. All right. All right, first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes. I need a motion and a second to approve or deny the June 17th, 2021 minutes as distributed. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The minutes are approved as disseminated. All right. On to agenda item number 2. Let me, one moment while I pull up the agenda. Oh, wrong file, sorry. All right, second item on the agenda is a request to convert an existing 2-hour parking space to a loading zone on South Spring Street and provide a new loading zone on East David Street. This is requested by store owner Casey Lewis. Mr. Tennant, would you care to take us through the details of the request?
Sure. 1 second. Oh. Let's see. Just not like that. All right. Can you see the map?
I can see the map on your screen, yes.
Perfect. All right.
And Mr. Page, since you are via phone, do you have a copy of the map to look at or ability to see Mr. Tennant's screen?
I am looking at the map right now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Mr. Tennant?
All right. Casey Lewis is the store owner of Carolina Sundries. He's requesting a loading zone on Spring Street and Davis Street. The loading zone on Spring Street, I'm going to bring up Google Earth to help give a little bit of a better picture. So here's Carolina Sundries right here. And so the loading zone on Spring Street is consistent with the other loading zones adjacent of the intersection because it would be all facing entering the intersection. So one right here, right beside the library. This is the Harbor Seafood. So entering this side of Spring Street. and then one right here on Davis. So where we're looking at is one potentially right here to take up that 2-hour parking spot. And let me drop down to street view.
So, Mr. Tennant, I think I'm still seeing the map on my screen.
You're still seeing the map?
Yeah. Do you have it on? Do you have Google Earth on a second screen?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you seeing Google Earth now, or?
Still the PDF.
Okay, let me stop sharing. I apologize. All right. How's
That's
that?
better. Yep,
Perfect.
can see the Google Earth now.
So Carolina Sundries right here. This is the library. And this is the seafood. I'm gonna exit out of street view for a second just to go back over what I was talking about. So you have a loading zone that's entering right here towards the intersection. Loading zone right here, as well as right here, all adjacent within the intersection. So their area we're talking about on Spring Street would be right here, as well as one right here kind of off Davis Street. I'll go down to street view to help kind of give a better look at this. So right here where this red car is, we would look to convert this to from a 2-hour parking spot to the loading zone.
So are we looking at one spot on each corner or two spots?
One spot. But over here, they weren't looking at necessarily putting one right here. It was going to be behind it. And so the worry on this one is that the one on Davis Street would not be consistent with the other loading zones as it within the intersection, as the others are all facing towards the intersection, as well as PD had some worries that if you have an oversized vehicle, it could be closer to this intersection, as well as just making observations out there. This left turn right here was pretty tight from Spring on to Davis. So we noticed that a lot of vehicles were pretty much trying to skirt down the double yellow, in which we did see a few vehicles during our observations parked here to where they would purposely come down almost the double yellow at times just to avoid any kind of collision. There's also it'll go up a little further. This alley back, this alley back here, which is designated for deliveries only. So that's the intent, is to keep delivery trucks back there and not to have them even consider potentially just parking right here and having any kind of overhang and potentially having a conflict with that left turn from Spring to Davis.
Yeah, that makes sense. So just to be clear, that the street, everything that you're showing there stays the same with this proposal, right? There's nothing changing where that green car and the gray car are right now?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing would be changing there. And then on Spring Street, it would just be converting this 2-hour parking space to the loading zone.
So would I be correct in saying that the town and or police department is good with the Spring Street conversion, but not as much about the East Davis Street loading zone?
That's correct. We did reach out to both fire and PD. Fire, just to make sure that there's nothing, no issues with having a loading zone, which the store owner, that was the other thing I wanted to bring up, is that kind of the purpose for the loading zone. Again, it's not designated just to the individual store owner. Anybody can use that loading zone that is within any of these properties. But their intent is it's going to be kind of more of mobile pickups for groceries. So their intent is to have passenger-sized vehicles come up. They would do a mobile order and park, and they would come outside and deliver the groceries to them, is the intent. Deliveries. Also, we kind of piggied off the parking study that was done for angled parking in late 2020, early 2000 or 2021 along East Davis Street. So just while piggybacking, we noticed that our observation showed that about half of the parking spaces along Spring Street, as well as up here and along Davis as well, especially on this side of the library, were vacant most of the time. So there's about half of them being used. We tried to go at different times of the day to where converting this one parking spot to a loading zone shouldn't have any negative impacts throughout the day. One thing I wanted to remind everyone is that the loading zones are in effect from 8 to 6 p.m. every day for only 30 minutes. So at all other times, before or after those hours, it would just be considered a regular parking spot.
So really very little impact other than just it essentially becomes a half-hour parking spot between the hours of 8 and 6, as you said, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And did the property owner, I mean, you said it was mainly passenger-sized cars. Did the property owner give you any indication that large trucks would be there or anything? And again, I realize anybody, once it's a loading zone, can use it.
No, they did not. I mean, for their specific use, that's the only downside, Commissioner Harinko, is that just like any of these loading zone, it's how do you enforce it to where in case if there is somebody that does pull up in a larger size vehicle. Sorry, I'm going to exit street view. Hopefully, because of the vicinity, you do have the deliveries that are supposed to use this back alley. There is a larger sized loading zone right here that could accommodate in case if there was a larger size vehicle. So I wouldn't think that somebody would just pull up, especially right here, just given the vicinity of how close it is to the intersection, and just trying to use that for more of a commercial size vehicle.
Yeah, that's reasonable, and I don't think you would look at that in a commercial vehicle would necessarily use that anyway if it's going to be a normal, and it would be just signed differently, correct? As a loading zone. I mean, the striping on the street and everything would remain the same.
Yes, so we would just create the box and then put the sign where it has the loading zone, 8 to 6 p.m., as well as we would move that 2-hour parking sign back a space that's currently there now.
Okay. Have you received any objections from anyone in the neighborhood?
I have not. Now, we didn't necessarily reach out to the surrounding business owners. And I think the reason being is just because with the fact that you have one on each corner already, it didn't look like, as well as there's a loading zone right here too. So it seems like just
Mayor
within,
Rinko,
Yes, Mr. Page.
for what it's worth, Impact Elements, which is just across Spring Street, recently requested the addition of a loading zone. And the only person that showed up to argue against or to state their case against that was the proprietor of the Rusted Bucket, which has since moved on to another location. And they converted one of the loading only on North Spring Street, not north from the perspective of actual north, but north of the intersection in question, to a non-loading zone to assuage those fears. So historically, there were 2 loading zones in this intersection for some time. So I don't see that there would be a lot of pushback from individuals to have the one added onto Spring Street. I did have one question about Mr. Tennant's statement about the turning radiuses and stuff in here. Can he describe what MUTCD standard is being not met by the intersection here, given that the design speed is 20 miles an hour for most of this stuff?
Nathan, I cannot. That's a good question. I'd have to get back to you. I did not look at the design speed and looked at turning templates or anything for that. It was more of just making field observations at the time.
So is the overall recommendation to, I guess, approve the Spring Street side and then disapprove the Davis Street side? Is that what we're thinking?
That's my recommendation, is to approve Spring Street and to deny the Davis Street.
That was going to be my recommendation to amend the request.
Yeah, I agree with that approach. I mean, has that approach been communicated to the business owner? I mean, is that something that meets their needs?
It is.
Okay.
It is. I spoke with Casey Lewis today to let him know that we will present both of them. But my recommendation to Traffic Commission is to approve the Spring Street and deny the Davis Street, just because of the potential of conflicts.
Mayor
Yeah,
Rinko, may I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
Mr. Tennant, what is the distance from the intersection northbound out of here for the first parking space from the intersection? And why is it that one for the same distance from the intersection for Davis wouldn't work, such that you'd end up with 4 parking spaces on the north side of Carolina Sundries instead of the current 3 parking spaces, regardless of whether they're loading or not?
Nathan, can you, I'm sorry, that was a lot of information. Can you say that one more time?
In front of the library, the car is parked much closer to the intersection than what is done currently on the eastbound from the intersection. Can you measure the distance from the intersection to the vehicle parking space northbound out of here, and then fit 4 parking spaces in on East Davis Street on the north side of Carolina Sundries?
Oh, okay.
We already have regulations in place that prohibit vehicles more than, I believe it's 20 feet in length parking downtown. So the transfer trucks and stuff don't have that ability anyway.
Okay. Honestly, I can't comment to that other than, I guess, just the observations that I saw on potential clips. So we did see in the observations where people were parking right here, and just for safety, to where we just saw people coming down in the middle of the road right here in order to avoid a car that was already parked right here.
And I think Mr. Tennant, and correct me if I misheard earlier, I think you said that the police department and fire department recommended against putting it there as well. Was that, did I hear that correctly earlier?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm inclined to go with the police and fire department recommendation. I mean, on that, if there's any concern from a safety perspective from their view, I'd rather err on the side of caution and side with the police and fire department in this case. I mean, although Mr. Page, I think you do make a valid point. It does look like that measurement there, I mean, could accommodate another parking spot and not impact site visibility, making the right-hand turn. But yeah, I would think for the purposes of this, I mean, I agree with the modified proposal that's there. But I don't know, Mr. Page, did you want to have Mr. Tennant take an action item to do the measurement and look into that further? If there could be a parking spot there or a loading zone for that matter?
I'm happy to defer to the consensus of the board, but I think that given that the average person drives through here at 35 miles an hour, they're more likely to go towards the middle of the lane because there's never any traffic on here. The average annual daily traffic on East Davis Street is like 1,000 vehicles per day, if that. And so, yeah, people drive down the middle line all the time because there's nobody else driving down here.
Okay. Mr. Tennant, did you have anything else on this one?
I did not.
Okay. Mr. Perry, Mr. Sarton, Mr. Howard, Mr. Page, any additional comments, discussions, thoughts on this agenda item?
No, I'm satisfied with the information that I've heard.
I'm
Okay.
as well.
Excellent. Well, if there's no, are there any public comments here this evening, Mr. Tennant?
1 second, I'll look. No public comments.
Okay. All right. If there are no public comments, no further discussion from the board, the chair entertains a motion to approve or deny this request. And actually, I should be more clear to approve or deny the modified request that we have proposed this evening. So do I have a motion to approve or deny the modified request?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Sarton, motion, thank you. Do I have a second?
And I will second.
Mr. Perry, second. All those
I'm
in
sorry.
favor signify by saying aye.
Rinko,
Aye. Yes, Mr. Page.
I apologize. I heard I make that motion. I wasn't sure if that was to affirm or deny.
Oh, yes. Mr. Sarton, you made the motion. It's in a motion to approve, correct?
To approve the modified proposal, yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Page. Yes. So I have a motion to approve the modified proposal by Mr. Sarton and Mr. Perry. I assume you were seconding a motion to approve the modified proposal?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. So we have a motion. We have a second to approve the modified proposal. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Tennant.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda, number 3, is staff reports and updates. So, Mr. Tennant.
No staff reports or updates at this time, Mr. Commissioner.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item agenda, very closely related, is commission comments or other items. So I'll open up the floor to the other commission members present. Are there any questions, comments, items that you would like to discuss or discuss with Mr. Tennant?
I have none.
Thank you, Mr. Sarton. Mr. Perry? Mr. Howard?
None.
Mr. Page?
Yes, sir. Chair Hinko, I actually do have one.
Yes.
I have had a change in my employment and am going to need to step back from the Traffic Commission. It has been a pleasure to serve with many of you and to watch Brian come on board, and I wish you all luck in the future.
Well, Mr. Page, thank you very much for your service on the Traffic Commission. It's been a privilege to serve with you, and thank you for your service to the city. And we wish you the best in your new employment endeavors. So thank you again for your service.
Yes, if I can echo that, we are losing a wealth of knowledge, as everybody's well aware of how smart Nathan is. Thank you for everything you've done, and we're definitely going to miss you, Nathan.
Yes, we will. Thank you, Mr. Perry.
I can say something as well, Chairman Narenko.
Yes, please.
Nathan, it's been a pleasure. Good luck in your future endeavors. And I appreciate your time serving.
Thank you all very much.
Yes. Wonderful. And the only question that I had, Mr. Page, is we were talking a little bit about some of the legalities of being able to universally change a speed limit in a municipality. And I think we had narrowed down to a particular section at the last Traffic Commission meeting, just kind of, and I think you were going to go back to the city attorney. Did that meeting happen, and did you happen to have any other information out of that?
So we weren't able to actually meet with the city attorney. So the only information that I could find within the code of ordinance was just saying that that the city council has the right to change the speed limits, and that the mechanism that we're currently doing that through is the traffic calming policy that's been adopted. But there wasn't anything from a citywide standpoint.
Yeah, I think the question that was there, and I apologize, I don't have the exact city ordinance reference there that we had discussed at the last meeting, but I think it was written something, what would it take and what would the effect of changing that particular ordinance from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour be, if that is even possible under, North Carolina law and the powers that the city council had. So we can certainly talk offline a little more in detail. It's just a question. I'm curious to understand what can be done by a municipality. And again, I recognize we have a traffic calming policy, and that meets the intent. But I'm just curious what the city council can or cannot do, for that matter, relative to citywide speed limits.
All right. And just in the information that I shared with Traffic Commission, I don't remember which one after collecting from the different municipalities, just from memory, but we can talk offline. I know they did not have, I guess, good luck on actually being able to do that within their jurisdiction, it seemed like.
Yeah, I do recall, and that's why I was just curious, the city attorney's opinion on how that, what could actually be done and what is perhaps not legally feasible. And just as we inform some discussions, as inevitably we'll have other, discussions and requests to change speed limits and such. And again, fully recognize our traffic calming policies. They're well documented and they've been used many times successfully, but just trying to look to understand all possible options that the city council has and that the Traffic Commission could recommend. So, and again, we can talk more offline if needed too. Yeah. All right. One last call for any other commission comments or other items that the commission members would like to bring up. All right, hearing none. That brings us to our adjournment. And at this time, we would need a motion and a second to adjourn. Was that Mr. Page made a motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Do I have a second to adjourn?
Second.
Mr. Sarton, thank you very much. I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, the commission stands adjourned. Thank you very much. And Mr. Page, again, thank you for your service, and we will miss working with you. So,
Thank you, y'all. Good luck. You got this.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Fellas, thank you very much. I guess we'll see you next time.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much. And